What's up everybody, the Game2K2 here once again, and I'm here to finally continue my review of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise. And today I'm reviewing TMNT 2, The Secret of the Ooze, and TMNT 3, Turtles in Time. With the second film, the story pretty much begins where the first film left off. The Turtles are now hiding at April's new apartment until they find a new place. However, the Shredder turns out to still be alive and has his sights set on revenge. He kidnaps a scientist who works for a company called TGRI, which is the company that created the ooze that turned the turtles into what they are. He uses the same ooze to create two huge mutants and has them attack the turtles. I don't know, when it came to Secret of the Ooze, I always thought there was something missing, and even viewing it years later, there's still something missing. The first film blended the campy elements of the cartoon and the dark and gritty elements of the comic so well. However, New Line Cinema seemed to think that being more kid-friendly would mean it would be a bigger hit, completely ignoring what made the first film so successful. Granted, there still are elements to the film that I do like. I do like a little bit of the comedy, especially from Raphael, who can be absolutely hilarious in some scenes. It also does still contain some of the dark and gritty elements, however, none of it is truly successful because the more campy elements do overshadow it. And unfortunately, the character of the Shredder and his two new creatures, Toka and Razor, are very campy and ridiculous. The Shredder was this intimidating character in the first film and loses all of that in this film. Toka and Razor are pretty much the live-action equivalents of Bebop and Rocksteady from the comics, but I will admit, I do like the names much better. Bebop and Rocksteady were pretty cool characters, but I never thought that their names were really all that great, so I was happy that they changed them. Does that save the fact that the characters wind up sucking in this movie? Absolutely not. They're nothing more but a couple of gigantic comic reliefs in this movie, which is a huge disappointment, especially if you're someone who actually read the comics. And then, of course, there's Vanilla Ice. A lot of people have given their own opinions about this moment, so I guess I'll give mine. I absolutely despise this moment. It's not just Vanilla Ice, it's the entire climax in general. The climax of the first film took place on a rooftop with an intense battle with the Shredder. This scene takes place in a club loaded with people, and the final battle is nothing more than the Shredder smashing things like the Hulk, with the Turtles not even throwing a single punch. What a letdown. And I guess I should discuss the acting. The voice acting and the animatronic work is very good. The only big change made to the cast was Paige Turco replacing Judith Hoag as April O'Neil. I hate to say it, but I prefer Judith Hoag. Nothing against Turco, I've seen a lot of her television work, and she is a great actress. But she seems very out of place in this movie. Judith Hoag actually seemed to naturally fit in with the role of April, while Turco feels a bit more forced in. So overall, with Secret of the Ooze, it's a completely wasted effort. The more kid-friendly attitude of the film keeps it from being as appealing as the first film. In fact, the tone of the film ruins everything. They actually had a really clever story, but because the movie tries to be more lighthearted and less gritty, it just turns into wasted potential. Now, let's move on to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. I think the funniest part about this movie is reading other people's reviews. Obviously, people have their own opinions, and I respect that, but the constant complaint is how illogical the whole story is. Yeah, because a movie based on a comic book about four big, mutated, walking and talking turtles who learn ninja from a giant rat just speaks of logic, right? In all honesty, I don't mind the story at all. I thought it was actually rather creative. The turtles are out of their environment and have entered a place that's at war, and most of the people first view them as enemies. I thought that would make for an intense story, but it fails on all levels. The story about the war is actually pretty interesting, however the characters who ruin it is sadly the Turtles. In fact, this probably would be a pretty good movie on its own if the Turtles weren't involved. The thing that makes it bad is that they upped the kid-friendly attitudes of the Turtles, giving them far more one-liners and making the fight scenes far more comedic, while the war between the leader and the rebellion is actually pretty serious. Well, besides the character of Walker and his goofy henchmen, but I'll get to them later. I actually found myself enjoying the movie more when the Turtles weren't on screen, which is quite sad. Speaking of the Turtles, a lot of complaints went towards the costumes and the animatronic work. Jim Henson's Creature Shop was somehow not selected to do this movie, and the costumes were left to another company to handle. In fact, the costume work was so horrible that the company still continues to remain anonymous to this day. I'm assuming they kept it that way so that their reputation wouldn't be damaged. The costumes, needless to say, are horrendous. With Jim Henson's Creature Shop, each of the turtles' appearance was handled carefully so that their look matched their personality. In this movie, they all look nearly the same. In fact, if it wasn't for those colored bandanas, I wouldn't be able to tell each turtle apart. You would think that they would make it all up with some kick-ass fight scenes, but unfortunately they don't. The fight scenes, to say the least, are entertaining at best, but again, they're ruined by the turtles. This goes back to the turtles' constant one-liners, because the one-liners mainly occur during the fight scenes, which makes the fight scenes lose their intensity. Literally, each punch or kick by the turtles is always followed by an unfunny joke, and it gets really old after a while. Now, despite all of that, the acting is actually worth mentioning. The voice acting is once again top-notch, however, it's kind of hurt by poor animatronic work. The rest of the cast, for the most part, is pretty good. I really enjoyed the performance of Vivian Wu as Mitsu. She's one of those actresses who should have a great career, but never really got off the ground. Also, I kind of enjoyed Stuart Wilson as Walker. He plays such a goofball character that he winds up being very entertaining. Overall, with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, as hard to believe as it might be, I actually do kind of enjoy this movie. Despite all the problems it possesses, I have found myself enjoying it more as I've gotten older. Granted, the animatronic work stinks and the turtles look awful, but there's something about the story that just really makes me enjoy this movie far more than the second movie. Well, that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and 3. I know I'm leaving out the most recent TMNT film, but to be honest, I still haven't taken time to watch it. The whole CG movie idea killed my interest when it came to TMNT, and I have really never wanted to watch it. Maybe someday I'll finally give in and give it a chance. Well, everyone, that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.